Hi, my name is London Beavers, and my presentation is on the vicious cycle between teen pregnancy and education. I chose to study this topic because I actually found out that I was expecting when I was 18 years old. It was my freshman year of college, and so I had to take a year off from school. I gave birth when I was 19 years old, and that was the first semester that I took off. My due date was around midterms, and then I took the next semester off to take care of my newborn. My husband continued school and transferred to UTD, and then I followed him when I went back to school, and my son was about a year old. I wanted to start off by talking about some of the expectations that come with parenthood versus the reality that you get with a teen pregnancy. Normally, when you're entering into parenthood, you would expect to be married, to have a steady job, and then your pregnancy would take place anywhere from your early 20s to your late 40s. However, with a teenage pregnancy, obviously that age range is a lot smaller. It's more from 13 to 19 years of age. Your choices are abortion, adoption, or to keep the baby. And the teenager that is pregnant now has to become a parent, so they have to grow up very quickly. So America actually has one of the largest teen birth rates amongst developed countries. In 1991, for every 1,000 adolescent females in the age group of 15 to 19 years of age, there were 61.8 births in the United States. By 2012, that number had dropped to 29.4 births for every 1,000 women in that age group, and then in 2013, that number dropped another 10%. A young female from the United States is actually 25% more likely to have a teenage pregnancy versus a teenage girl from Russia. And these numbers would be even higher if getting an abortion was not an option. About a quarter of all teenage pregnancies in the United States ends in abortion. The abortion rate amongst teens aged 15 to 19 years of age has actually declined by 64% between 1990 and 2010. Which is amazing. However, we still have the largest teen birth rate, even with all of these drops. And a teen pregnancy can add up to 3 years of extra schooling. So one of the first studies that I looked at was conducted by Percy Antonio Galimberti, and he hypothesized that teenagers who dropped out because of a pregnancy would make less money than their counterparts who had dropped out due to other reasons, and that these girls were also less likely to go back to school and either finish high school or complete GED testing. Galimberti utilized data from the Texas Schools Microdata Panel, which he accessed through the Cecil and Ida Green Center at the University of Texas at Dallas. Through the TSMP, Galimberti was able to study dropout rates across schools throughout Texas and even access scores such as the TAAS math scores. And his results were really close to his hypothesis. Oftentimes, the teenagers who had dropped out because of a pregnancy, they did make less money, and they were less likely to either go back to school or to complete their GED. However, if you controlled independent variables like ethnicity, then these girls were actually more likely than their counterparts who had dropped out due to other reasons to go back and complete their GED. Another study that I looked at was done by the Schuler Center for Analysis and Advocacy, and they had a lot of similar ideas and conclusions as Galimberti. However, they focused more on how having to take care of and provide for a baby takes up too much time for adequate schooling. The parents or the mother will have to have a job in order to provide for themselves and for the baby, and that job will really take away time from studying for school. In order to really care for a child, the parent needs to be as well rested as they can be while taking care of a newborn, and that within itself is just a really difficult thing to have because newborns don't sleep very much. And I think this kind of goes the other way as well. In order to do well in your school, you need to be adequately well rested, and when you're trying to juggle both a newborn and school, this can be a really hard thing to accomplish. Some of the facts that the Schuler Center gave was that in 2004, pregnancy was the reason that about every 1 in 3 girls gave for why they dropped out of school. And in fact, most had to quit school, and only about 63% of them ever ended up finishing or completing their GED testing. And by the age of 30, only 5% of teen mothers have completed 2 years of college, and less than 2% of teen mothers have obtained a college degree. So the environment that's being created around these new young parents is not one that encourages room for growth in either an education or a career. One of the other studies I looked at was conducted by Kearney and Levine. They focused more on the children of the teen pregnancy and their education. They found that often the children with teen mothers were not school ready in reading or in math. They were more likely than their peers to repeat a grade, and they tended to have social behavioral issues. These were all factors that combined together to place them back in what I like to call the teen pregnancy cycle, just like their parents. And this was something that Gallenberty touched on in his study as well. I think this is one of the reasons why America has such a high birth rate. The teenage parent never really gets past the point of scraping by because they spent too little time focusing on themselves when they were younger. This doesn't really always set up the best environment or example for the child, and they get stuck in the exact same problem as their parents. Kearney and Levine suggested that breaking this cycle would take some serious addressing of the lack of opportunity economically that those in the lower class experience. Unfortunately, no one seems to have a very helpful or viable solution yet. Some suggest specific programs for teen childbearing mothers. They found that in order to really break this cycle, it benefited teen mothers to come from a supportive family with whom the mothers could entrust the caring of their child during school and homework hours. This really allowed the teen parents to further their education. However, most of the teen parents were actually not offered that familial or financial support, leaving the mother or parents helpless and alone, placing them within this cycle that the teen pregnancy has created in their education. In addition to better sex education, something that I thought might help would be having a better social support system that schools could offer, or that the schools could provide contacts to businesses that help support teen pregnancies to provide these young mothers with more opportunities and a better support system. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to my project. I hope you're able to learn something about the struggles that teen mothers and even fathers have to face, especially when it comes